Hey,
Yo,
hi.
okay, let's get back into it. So, yeah, relationships, again, one of those exciting topics. So again, like I was saying earlier, you have your male and female heteros, right? And
hmm
then the middle ground is kind of where everyone then gets married and everyone kind of goes into long distance or long, very long relationships, right?
Yeah,
But then you have the parts in between that are the iffy parts, the ones where you kind of, that's where the angry people are, that's where the resentful people are, that's where the men are trash and women are trash people are. Um,
yeah, but the men are
yeah,
trash. The men are trash people are kind of just they're kind of just people that are trying to get into relationships and failing at finding decent people. So
yeah,
they
fair enough.
call the majority of men trash.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's probably a
I
group of
think,
guys out there that think that women are trash too.
I think a lot of that's true, but I think a lot of people get into situations whereby it's like if one doesn't work, then the next one won't work, and the next one won't work, then it's like a spiral kind of thing down, and then you have that whole, oh no, you know what, man, I'm tired of girls or I'm tired of guys, and then you go on social media and you just that's all you see, man. That's yeah, men are
Mm.
like this, and, oh man, but women are like that, and it's like back and forth fight between both
Mm.
sexes, and it's like there's no common ground, and I think again a lot of the stuff comes back to the understanding. It's almost like two political parties fighting against each other, but then they don't realize that they need each other,
Mm.
and then they're like, well, where can we then connect? And it's like, no, we're not supposed to connect. And it's like, maybe we actually should connect for the better of, of everything else.
Mm.
So then that's a long-term relationship. That's a type of a marriage, where you then say, you know what, let us connect so that we can then grow together and grow everything around us better. But then a lot of us are on either side trying to, you know, fight for our genders or our sexes, and
Mm.
then it's like
Mm.
a lot of hate and a lot of resentment and a lot of misunderstanding. So the reason why I wanted to do this with a girl is that then I can get your guys' perspective, because I think a lot of guys just don't care about it. So what are the things that girls kind of don't understand about guys?
We don't understand. This is okay, this is common. We don't understand the idea of why a guy can do a lot of terrible things in pursuit of one thing. Like if he's not looking for a relationship, he's just looking for a fling, he won't care about this girl's emotions. He won't care about being responsible or mature about it. He'll kind of just go for what he wants and then get it and then leave this girl heartbroken. And that's one of the girls that ends up going men are trash.
True.
We don't understand that in just the process of dating, just along the steps. Once we're in relationships, we just don't understand the drama that comes from it because guys think that we're the emotional thinkers. They think that we're the ones that are really sensitive, that we care about everything a little too much. But then when a man's emotions are involved, he turns into someone else. He's very soft.
Okay.
Depending on how quickly they get into a relationship, becomes super, super, super soft. And the smallest of matters becomes something he completely stresses out about or turns into a big deal or a big argument. And we've never really understood why, because we know the things that really matter,
Because you guys know the things that.
that really matter.
Okay, and what is that?
So depending on what the situation is or what the arguments, whatever a girl is having with her boyfriend, we know, like for example, if it's a situation about some girl that he used to talk to, and he brings up someone from her past, the fact that people from this relationship's past are being brought up is not what's important, but just the fact that it's bothering someone for another reason in the past, and no one really. Usually that would be the guy, and he would not be able to discuss that or talk about that.
So why do you think then guys tend to be like that? Why do you think guys tend to um, again just pursue everything that they can pursue, regardless of who's kind of affected or not?
Well, girls blame guys' egos. We think they need some kind of validation through what it is they gain from women to feel better about themselves. I mean, no offense, but that's what we think. And when it comes to him not being able, like, when it comes to a man in a relationship not being able to discuss what he should, it might be because of like gaslighting in a previous relationship, or the idea that men are always supposed to be so masculine, so they have a difficult time talking about their feelings when they're in a relationship and a safe place where they should feel comfortable. Now they're too guarded and they protect themselves too much when they shouldn't, to talk about anything that actually bothers them, anything that could benefit the relationship, that could help it move forward.
Yeah. Oh, this is very, very spicy already, bro. Because what you're saying is so true, and I'm thinking, I don't want to get personal, but I'm just thinking of it from my point of view as well. It's like,
What's
yeah,
your point of view?
well, what you're saying now about guys, like, it's just, that's the truth. It's like when you were saying that guys get into a situation whereby we can do whatever we want because we can, and we do it
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what happens. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my question to that though is, do you think it's like a social thing? Do you think it's genetically driven? Like, what do you think it is? What do you like? Even the fact that then, even if depending, okay. So what do you think it is? What do you think the actual drive is? Do you think it's social or genetics?
I think it might, depending on it could be social for the guy that's single and is always trying to stroke his ego by like getting a lot of girls. It could be social because it might have been this guy's friends or whatever that let him know that it's a good idea to seek this kind of validation in that method, right? By
Yeah.
sleeping with as many women, or by being as like impressive to many women, or by coming up to be rich or whatever. It could have been that, and that's what you see in society anyways. That's what's so praised, which makes absolutely no sense. But for the guy but even in society, talking about like men talking about their feelings is kind of just brought down and talked shit about and sort of seen as weak. And I feel bad for men because there's a lot of stigma on, let's say, for example, a man crying or showing his vulnerability or talking about his feelings. and it's even in girls now. Like they see a guy discussing how bad he feels about something or how he felt about something she did into a relationship that he did not enjoy, and she sees him as too sensitive. She calls him a pussy for it. I feel bad for guys that get into that kind of situation. And it's all society. It's all society's viewpoints on why and how men should discuss or whatever. Like we're typically crybabies. As women, we're typically crybabies. We typically talk about everything. We're typically emotional thinkers, but guys are supposed to be so logical all the time that people forget men have feelings as well. And so the second they get uncomfortable discussing something in a relationship, they could completely come out of it. They could repel completely. They just back away and switch off the whole thing, the whole relationship. I've known men that backed away because they started getting too vulnerable. They started realizing how much they like this girl. They started realizing how much control she has over their emotions, and they did not want that. And that's what most of us have a fear of commitment for in the first place. We don't want to be controlled by the actions and words of another person. We don't want them to hurt, so we just don't put ourselves in that position.
Yeah. All relatable, man. All relatable. Um, so in knowing that guys are like that, do you then not think that then the way that women then receive that should be a bit better? So if you know that a guy is going to do something like that, should you then not prepare for that? Why is it always then you get caught in the middle of?
Yeah, well, I mean, some women are prepared for that based on how much it is we know about this person or how much we see from just life experience. But it's still hard to understand who it is we're dealing with and who it is we're dating if we don't exactly know the ins and outs of everything. And if we're still being put on the other side of this whole thing, just have this wall right in front of us that's completely covered. If we don't know what's gone on in this person's past, we still can't understand. We need to know exactly what it is. But we still can't exactly understand. And what most guys do is that they realize they're starting to really like someone. And then they get distant. They stop texting back. They leave you on red for days. And if they're honest about it, if they find the courage, eventually, when you've completely forgotten about them and you run into them in person, or they finally call or text, they actually explain it to you. Those are the ones that are still trying to figure it out. Some guys just stop and disappear, and then they're never heard from again. Right? And women do this too, but we don't do it for the same reasons. I think we get tired of just trying, and we get tired of just talking, so we just disappear.
So as much as there is a social norm,
but in that process, we'd be trying to understand, and then it would fail because no one would be communicating with us. Sorry, go on.
So as much as there is a social kind of construct to it and a social norm to it, do you think that, I mean, can you rule out genetics? Can you rule out the way that things are like kind of programmed before we're even born? And then that kind of then sets us apart and makes us decide our choices based, and then those choices will be socially influenced.
On some level, I can't, but I tend to not see things based on like how society's controlled them or how genetics have controlled them or anything like that, because we're like, at least our generation, mine, and the next ones to come, they are supposed to, we expect them to be right. I think that's the expectation is probably what's fucking everybody up. But we expect them to be better because we've all talked about how we need to communicate as adults. We need to actually fix things and all of that. And the problem is that it's all mumbled up. It's all very mixed up and confused because you have people that are like in their 60s, or our parents or our grandparents, and they tell us when things were broken or when there was something wrong, we would be there and we would fix it. We wouldn't just let it die out. We wouldn't just walk away from it. And some of us want to do that. Like people in relationships want to do that, but it depends on how much you care about what's going on here and how willing you are to invest in it. And that's outside of the genetics. That's outside of your past. That's outside of everything. Because some people, especially in relationships, some people may not be ready. They're not ready for the relationship. They're not ready for the change. But depending on the person that you want and how much you care about them, how much you want them in your life, you get ready. You prepare for this person. Contrary to who you are, how much therapy you need, how messed up, you prepare yourself. Even if it takes months and years and whatever, at least you make the promise of, I messed up now, but I will come back and we'll actually work on this. You at least let it be known. And that's outside of society and genetics. That's about the person, just how much they're willing to invest in whatever relationship this is.
All right. I think, okay, so I understand where you're coming from. And as a guy, obviously knowing a lot of guys and being one of the guys, I agree with everything that you're saying. And it's spot on. But now I'm just thinking about it in the sense of like, why we do what we do, you know? And I think socially, yes, there is a very big component, you know, the fact that you're saying now, like, it's just really cool to do it. You know, it's really cool to just not be in a relationship. It's really cool to just, to reach short-term goals, you know, just for now. And it's not, or medium to short-term goals. And it's not really a viable solution for the long term, because then it's like, well, now you just have a bunch of angry, you know, angry exes or angry women, you know, and it's like, then you ask yourself, well, then why did I think it was cool back then? Why do I think it's cool now? Why do I not find it a problem? You know, and it comes back to this ego thing that you were talking about how the women basically choose nature, right? So men kind of compete. So men kind of compete to be at the highest of all the dominance hierarchies, just like what women do, right? So
Mm.
we organize ourselves and we fight amongst ourselves to be the top of everything or of anything, right? So that then we can be chosen the most. So with jobs, with women, with sport, with anything, just anything in general. If you're fighting at the top, then it's like, okay, cool. Now I'll be chosen much more often, right? And then you find that then women then tend to choose more of those men that are there as well, right? So you have then a distribution where you have a lot of the men, or you have a lot of men that are not with women, right? And then all of the men get all the, or some of the men get all the women.
Mm-hmm.
And that's again with anything, with jobs, with some the rich people keep getting rich, the poor people keep getting poorer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So because again, we just organize ourselves in that, and I think that also has and that's a big genetic component, because then the more men they get chosen, the more those men then reproduce, or the more chances they get, the more they reproduce, the more then those type of men then evolve.
Mm-hmm.
So then the men that don't get the girls are kind of like, well, they don't kind of, say for instance, you go into a party, right? So the guys that get the girls, they go more to the party because they get more of the girls. And then the girls that get those guys, they do the same thing. So then they're all there. Then the people that don't get interaction, guys and girls, they don't really come. So mostly it's the guys that don't come. Because then the women that don't get attention can still get attention from some of the guys. Right? So, because then again, so one guy can be with a lot of girls, right? Whereas one chick tends to just be like, ah, you know what, let me just rather chill with this one guy instead of entertaining people that they don't want to entertain, because the girls really make the choices.
Yeah.
Right? So again, like I'm saying, like, I understand when you say there's a big social component, right? But I think again, genetically there is a very strong argument, right, to say as though, again, if you're at the top of the hierarchy, or the top of the food chain, you're then more likely to get more of whatever's happening, and then the people at the bottom are just not as likely. So therefore, the people at the top then kind of reproduce, right? And then the top always fluctuates depending on themes, depending on what happens in life, So maybe, or even in different places. So in Middle Eastern country, it's not as attractive to be pretty. It's more attractive to have more money. So then the guys that have more money then climb up higher. Whereas in the Western countries, it's like, well, I want you to be attractive and kind of be like a bad boy. So whether you have money or not, that's like, well, then you climb up with the ladder there. So we're constantly on the fight of how can I get to the top of where I need to get to so that I can get picked more often. And if I'm picked more often, then I can have whatever that I need to have. So that again is a big genetic component, because so it's almost like the weak die off, and then it translates into something like this, where you then have a lot of guys, well, I'm no different at all, that just get or want most of the girls, and do get them. So then it's like, well, then if I can get them, why stop? And again, it's like, well, that's a short-term fix. A guy can get one girl, and it's like, well, then why can't I get two? Okay, well, then why can't I get three? And then that comes again as a consequence of the genetic component of, well, we don't really have a purpose. We don't really have anything else to do other than just to be picked or be attracted. So
Yeah,
if I can do,
I'd never thought of it from that angle, to be very honest. But I think women are less inclined to really want to be picked the most, because we kind of always are. We kind of always are. We get attention even from people that, like, from guys that we don't want, even from guys that we don't want, or guys that we do want, and so we're not always after that.
yeah,
But because
exactly.
men rarely get that that attention, they're always on the look for it.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, it's again, it's almost like, so again, depending on where you're at. So if you're a woman, again, you are Mother Nature. So you're the guys that kind of make the decisions. You make the choices in the sense of you pick the male, right? So you pick the male that you want to be with. Whereas as a male, we just kind of have to fight to be picked. And then you find that then we come into a room and then we assess the situation to say, okay, what do I have to do here that's going to be most likely for me to get picked? Do I need to have more money? Do I need to have nice clothes? Do I need to be pretty? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Then the things that you can change, you change. And the things that you can't change, you leave. And then you substitute them with something else, right? So again, you find that then if you don't have looks, then you say, okay, you know what? Well, let me just have a lot of money. And then that kind of everything out. Because then I might be low in this category, but then I'm high here, and then it brings my average a bit higher. And then if you look at the whole pyramid, then I'm a bit higher than most males. And then women sit and they say, well, who am I going to pick? And this is what happens. And again, genetically, as much as men are definitely at fault, it's like, well, women, why do women then not pick the guy that they know that is going to be the best for them? Why do they always pick the person that is most likely going to be someone that's going to break their heart, right?
Well, it's not like they can see the future. They don't know that he's going to break their heart. They're unaware of it. Like a smart woman already knows what she wants. She sees what someone is offering her, but she doesn't rush to it. She kind of takes her time to see if this person can actually build with her. And usually that's the woman that makes the right choice. Okay. But other girls that are, let's say, I don't know, rushing for something to be perfect or this idea of a perfect relationship, usually they're the ones that pick the wrong guy. It's going to end up breaking their heart because they're falling for the image of whatever he is right now and not what he could become, not how much he could benefit her in the future. True. And that's pretty much why women tend to fuck up.
Yeah, but then again, also in saying, I mean, that does happen, but also in saying that, women are more attracted to, it's like men that are more attractive when they're in relationships. So a woman doesn't want someone that's going to be a loner. They want someone that's being wanted. So then it's like, oh, okay, well then that is attractive to me. I want someone that's wanted because then it's not dangerous, but it's like a nice kind of danger. Like, oh, what is this? What's going on? Let me go and find out. But then the guys that are hitting you up on the inbox and they're doing everything for you and they're buying you flowers and everything, it's like, doesn't he have anything better to do? You know, so again, the picks that, because then you guys do the same thing. So you guys also fight for that. You guys also organize yourselves like that. The shy ones and the ones that are not really open, they're not really that pretty, and they're not really that rich, or they're not really that outspoken. They kind of sit at the bottom. And then the ones that are always on Instagram, they have the sexy bodies, they really have great personalities, and they, you know, academics and all these things, they kind of go to the top. And then it's like a straight shootout. It's like the top guys pick the top, or the top girls pick the top guys. And then it happens that way. And then the ones at the bottom kind of then fall off. But then the females don't. The men kind of fall off. Because the females can still be chosen by the guys that don't get the girls. Because one guy can get 10 girls, and then you minus the whole wad of girls for the lower guys to get. And then they can then just shoot down for the lower chicks. And then again, like I said, then it becomes more and more of an imbalance. But then it's like, well, a solution to it would be just choose the lower end guys. Just choose the guys that are not at the top of the food chain. And it's like, no, we don't do that.
Yeah, if we do that, we're lowering every standard we have. It's a very shallow thing to say, but like the thing is, we're stuck between this idea of we're going to be treated right by the guy that is not the best looking or is not the richest because he's humble or whatever. So we're always fighting between that idea and never lower your standards, because what someone will fail to do is what someone else will succeed at. Right? True. And for some women that applies to image and richness, and for other women that applies to what it is a guy does in a relationship.
Yep. True. But then
it's difficult when you see like so many let's say attractive people that actually do well in the world, that actually care about their families and their mothers, that actually know how to treat a woman, and you realize that you're thinking about being with somebody, or you're thinking about being in a relationship with somebody that lacks in any of these areas.
Yep.
So you stop and you're like, do I do I really want this, or is it possible to still have that other guy?
So this is what happens then, is that then that's why I think the whole term of women like bad boys kind of comes from. It's like, well, the bad boys are mostly the guys that are at the high end of the levels in a lot of categories, right?
Mm.
So they're not just pretty; they also kind of have aura or charisma, and they also sometimes are not that. They're good with academics, and they're creative. They're all sorts of stuff, and it's like, ooh, I really like that. And it's like, if you look at even all the guys that in general that kind of women kind of fall for or lust over are guys that are kind of well-rounded like that, but they're well-rounded towards the top,
Mm-hmm.
and then the guys that don't really get anything are the guys that are really at the bottom, and they're the shy guys, the guys that are bullied, whatever it is, right?
Mm.
So then you find that then the choices that the girls make is based on preference, and it's based on, well, I want the best to make sure that I'm breeding the best type of, or as much as I'm trying to make sure that whatever choice that I'm making is the best for myself and the best
Mm.
for the future in my society, right? And then you guys fight again like that. So you then organize yourselves as well. Then the top again. It's like,
But I think that only happens when we're choosing. I think when we're in a relationship and we're seeing how that works, we're still focused on just this one person, and
true,
we want to
yes,
make that part work.
yeah. So then it happens in the choice. Yeah. So but the thing is then the selection process already then cuts off whoever cuts off the men already. So then the
Hmm.
selection process, you then choose the guy, and then when you get to know him, then you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that this is like this and like that. And then you're
Hmm.
already then in a situation where now you're mad or you're hurt and things like that. And then by the time you leave, you're gonna go jump into another relationship. And then what are the chances that you're gonna pick someone that's gonna be from the bottom of the food chain? They're very low. So you go again, you pick someone there, and you find that, okay, I'm not gonna pick as high now. I'm gonna pick just below, and it's like just
Hmm.
below is still almost the same person. And then
Yeah.
you find that all your boyfriends are the same or similar, right? And then you say men are trash because you've picked from 10 people,
Yeah,
and
but
then
not
you,
all of us. Not all of us are really that stupid. That's pretty much what experience is for. We've dealt with enough negativity, and we've dealt with enough like negative traits from whatever relationship that we went into, that we know what we don't want, right? And then we actually give an opportunity to pretty much anyone, as long as they're willing to show the effort, right? At that point, most women would be at a point in their, and they're growing, where they don't want to focus on being in a relationship because they're tired, because they've had too much of these shitty ass men, so they choose to focus on themselves. And that's
true,
usually when they run into the person that's actually worth being in a relationship with. So these years of experiences with failed relationships or failed dating experiences, they're what introduce a woman to what's actually worth looking at and what's actually worth looking for. And that guy could be from anything. It could be, he could have been like randomly chosen from some kind of draw. He could have been a dice roll, anything.
yeah. No, that does happen,
Hmm.
and I think again that's kind of the beginning and the end. The problems are in the middle when you're still choosing and you're still, getting there and you're not getting the person that you want, and then I hate men or I don't like men, and then men say, oh, you know what, we don't care about you, and we kind of hurt each other, hurt each other, and then we find each other. But then that hurt and hurt is kind of like what's going on. It's what
Hmm.
happens the most, because then it's just hurt and hurt, and then a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old are dating, and then there's hurt there, then a 23-year-old, then by the time the woman gets to about 30, then they're like, man, I just want to then relax. But that whole 10 years or 15 years, it's just been hell,
Hmm.
And for men, it's like, we don't really care. Some of us
Hmm.
do, but the ones that do are the ones that are at the bottom of the food chain. That's why they're there.
Hmm.
That's why don't
But not
go for
necessarily.
that.
Like there have been some very like attractive and rich men that have kind of been screwed over by life as well. And it comes to, it's surprising to me too. I've met them. It's very,
Say that
very
again?
surprising. But pretty much anyone can be a victim of these fucked up ass relationships. This waste of time for years. But when men get to like 30 and they're still single and they haven't found what they want to, they they want to give everything a break. It's not that they've given up. They want to give everything a break, and they still just want to play around. They still don't want anything to be serious because of all the serious relationships. But they're not that they tried to make work. But they're not interested in it's either friendships or you become my wife now. They're interested in all of that in between. Reliving their 20s, all of it.
Yep. And yeah, that so I think that leads into the bigger picture, which is men and women they're more alike than they are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the difference is the big difference. So again, with a woman, it's like from 0 to 35, you need to kind of make a decision about kids, having a child and bearing a child, and at the same time making sure that you know how family's going to be and what you want from careers,
Mm-hmm.
what you want from your job. Men don't have to do that. We can literally chill from 0 to 100 and not pick up a purpose at all. So that's how you get adult infants that are 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old that are still in the club, because it's like, because I can do it. Like I can chill there if I want, but I don't have any responsibilities. I don't need to have one. And I think, I think again, when we then voluntarily kind of have or make responsibilities for ourselves, and it kind of gives us a bit more of a purpose, a bit more of something to fight for, a bit more of something to live by, and then we will then tend to be less reckless, and less damaging, because then there's something there. And whether it's a career, whether it's a family, it just needs to be there. That's something that the men have chosen, or the guys have chosen. Because if you don't choose, then you can be anywhere that you want. You can do anything that you do. So that's why I think a lot of the terms like men cheat because they can, it comes with that. It's like men cheat because they can, but also because they do everything else because they can, because they don't have anything else to do. So but then the men that kind of find things to do, whether it's a job, a career, or family, or anything like that, then you find that they're a bit more compact and they're a bit more structured, and then they carry with them a lot less destruction. So
those are the men that have found something they're passionate about, something that they're important for, and that can also be the relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
It depends on what you find to be the most important. So your career, your relationship, your life, your job, whatever it is, and exactly what it is that doesn't make you want to be reckless is exactly what's going to ground you to not just doing whatever you want for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It's gonna make sure that you don't float off, because we can just float if we want. There's no reason for a guy not to drink during the week, for example. But if you get a job, it's like, nah, let me not drink. So there's a reason for you not to do all the reckless stuff. There's why not be in gangs? Like a gang is such a nice family that you're with. But if you think about it and you're like, okay, well then maybe if I get a job and I get friends and I, get a girlfriend that I like and I'm truthful with her and I try to make it work, then it's like, man, I don't have time for gangs then. And then you find that your short-term goals that you're trying to reach, you're actually then looking at it in the long term, So again, for me as well, when you're in your teens as a guy, just a lot of things that are going on. There's just so many hormonal changes that you really don't care about anything, don't care about anyone, whether it be male or female, and because then your sex drive and everything else is just kind of booming, we just chill, and then we try to beat other men, and then when we beat other men, we just get all the women, and then it's like, cool, I can do that. And then you look back and you look at the destruction that you've made, and you're like, jeez, like why, like, how did this all happen? And it's again, it's like, I didn't have a purpose, man. I didn't have something to kind of reach for and live for, And then you kind of, when you go through it, you kind of find yourself in your rubble, and you say, well, there's something to kind of, fight for, and then or to live, find that, and then everything else kind of then sorts itself out,
I think
But at
the
the
tragedy is just that like you have to go through that phase. You have to go through that. There's nothing that's really going to slow you down because you're gonna go through it for whatever 10 years of your life. Like as a teenager, you can want to compete with the rest of your friends, be the coolest guy at school and whatever. In your 20s, you're going to be hurting some people's emotions to end up in whatever serious relationship you're about to. In your 30s or your 20s to your 30s, you're gonna screw over some people for a career and a job, and there's no, there's no stopping it or slowing it down. It's just
yeah,
the
yeah,
the growth part.
that,
It's just the process.
yeah, yeah, man. It actually when you look at it in like a when you zoom out and you look at it, it's like, are these things just supposed to happen? You know, because
Unfortunately.
yeah, because you look at it and you're like, well, man, the whole point of everything kind of, you know, the drives and everything that you get in puberty is so that you can be competitive, you know, so that there's something to live for. But then that competition just tends to happen with everything,
Mm.
you know, and then it becomes destructive, you know, and it's like, well, then the alternative is to not have it at all. But then it's, well, then what's the point of living then?
Mm.
So yeah, relationships are difficult, man. And again, from a woman's point of view, I totally understand that women understand that, you know? And I think that as well. It's just, I don't know. How do you tell women to make better decisions? How do you tell guys to make better decisions?
You tell them to make better decisions. You have to be the person that has kind of gotten ahead in life and gone through everything yourself to tell them exactly what better decisions to make. But there's there's no way to there's no way to make the right decision and constantly end up safe with your emotions and everything. There's no way to make whatever decision and constantly be certain that it's right. You can follow your guts, you can follow what you're passionate about. At the end of the day, there's either going to be someone that screws you over or you screw someone over. There's always someone who's the villain in somebody else's story. And the problem with that is that the only way you can tell someone to make a better decision is if you're ahead of it all and you've been through it all and you can come back and tell them what not to do. So in order for you to tell someone to make better decisions, you've had to make the same fucked up decisions they have. And we can't judge anyone for that.
Yeah, it's tough, eh?
It's a long and very grueling process.
Yeah, it's very complicated, and there's a lot of, so it's like there's two roads that you can take, but both of them come with nonsense, and both of them come with destruction. You just want to hope that the one that you do choose has the least amount, but don't be
Mm.
fooled to think that there's none at all, because that
Mm.
destruction is also there to make sure that you're alive and to make sure that you grow.
Mm.
So it's difficult. It's tough. It's tough for like a teenager, whether you're a guy or girl, to hear this.
Yeah, that is. It's really tough. But teenagers have their own problems that really don't have much to do with the relationship. They're only starting to figure out that they can like other people. In your 20s, that's that's pretty much what everything's about. You liking other people, you trying to grow into your own, you becoming who you are, you taking risks, and everything in your life in your 20s is a risk. All of it. You have to kind of just jump in and see what works for you. I really don't think anyone has it harder than than a young adult.
That'll be interesting to find out. I think again, depending on what criteria you look at, some
Mm.
people different age groups have different things that are more difficult. Um, yeah, that's really tough, man. Like when you do think about it, it's like, man, it has to happen. It's like that's just kind of the way of life. It's just about trying to do the least damage. Because again, like what you're saying now, it's like when you get put into your 20s and you think to yourself, well, like I don't want to be hurt, and I don't want to hurt, you know, but I don't want to be hurt first. So the first thing
Mm.
you do is you shut off your feelings. You say, hey, you know what? I'm not about feelings, and I just want to still get what I want to get. And then you protect yourself, and then inevitably, as a result, you hurt other people. Not intentionally doing it so, but
But as a
well, that's
result, you hurt other people. Yeah.
Yeah, because then someone else, you just say, well, then why don't you do the same thing? Just don't fall in love with me. You know? It's
Mm.
like, well, if I'm not falling in love with you, you don't fall in love with me, and then we go on with life. And then 2 weeks
Mm.
later, the guy or the girl will say, hey, man, you know what? I think I'm developing feelings for you. And it's like, how did we get here?
Yeah, that's the thing. Feelings are kind of what ruin everything in the first place. They're really hard. They're exactly like the idea of not being able to control the way of life. They're exactly like that. Feelings are just completely uncontrollable. They kind of just creep up on you, and then there's just really nothing that you can do about it for as long as you feel this way about this person.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's true.
crushes are easy. Crushes just need distance. You kind of just leave this person alone and don't talk to them, don't look at them, don't nothing for a while. You kind of found that you've grown out of however it was that you felt. But when you're in love, you can be in there for like years. You could be exposed to abuse. You could be exposed to like verbal abuse. You could be exposed to gaslighting and everything. But in your mind, you're convinced you're in love with this person. So you excuse all of their behavior
Why
and
is
you
it why
stay.
why is it also that women love to use this crushes thing? The last time I heard of the word crushes was like in grade 6.
Why are you asking why they love to use the word crushes?
Like every time I see it or I hear it, it's always by a female. I've never heard a guy say it.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's weird. It's weird for me. Again, I went to an all boys school, so it's like I'll never hear it. But I mean, even after that in varsity, the word crush, I've always heard it when females, use it. Even on social media, it's always like, "Oh, here's my crush," and it's like, "You're 28, bro. Like, why are you talking about?" You know, I understand
Well,
what you
because
mean. But like, as
because
guys,
this,
we don't really
this
get crush.
person does not have any feelings for us in return. They don't know that we exist. More often than not, they don't know that we exist. Right? They don't have any feelings for us in return. So, and we're not sure that we're head over heels in love with this person. We're not sure that this is not just puppy love that's going to disappear in the next few days or months. So we call it
I,
a crush.
I think this is what the boys just kind of just like we just don't
This is
understand
what the
that.
boys call head over heels in love. This is they become obsessed. They think it's actual love. They become obsessed with this person. They deal with her, and then things just fizzle out.
Yeah, man. I
I don't
think
think boys use the word crush much. I've heard guys use the word crush on my part, but I don't think they use it much.
yeah, I've never heard it, man. It's always a female. I mean, obviously I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that's what I've heard. And I think a lot of these solutions and all these kind of issues with guys and girls and things, we need to kind of cut open the brain and really assess it, man, and really try
Yeah,
to figure out what are these things that kind of drive us and
this
and
entire conversation, frankly, this whole topic could probably be better discussed with a group because just two people won't cover it, and then there's no
that's
way.
true.
There's so much to say.
Yeah, maybe I should have it with a guy next and that kind of combine it and see where we get. I
You could.
think it's also when you have it with a group, it's so easy to just get heated and there's nothing that'll kind of come out from it. So at
Yeah,
least if you,
you need a very unbiased group.
well, what are the chances of that?
No, I mean, depends on your friends. It's not that slim. Depends on your friends. I don't know. You
Yeah,
have to pick
no,
really intelligent people that tend to take everything in an objective light. And
I
it's
guess
hard.
I
It's hard to take everything completely objectively because you need to arrange for people to be very, very objective in whatever conversation this is.
I think it's easier. I don't know. I don't know. I'll see. Maybe with people that I don't know, but then the problem with that is that maybe they won't be as truthful as they should be.
Maybe.
Yeah, but yeah, and I think at least it's like it's not really a solution, but at least if you can if you can watch or read or hear about something like this, and you are in that situation or you're in situations like that, then you can kind of again try to make better decisions. Try to
Mm,
make easy decisions. Um,
mm.
thinking about it now, if I turn back the time to when I was like 19, 20, and you asked me if I would have made different decisions to what I made now, yeah, I don't even know. I don't even think I would, man. You
No
know?
one would.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
we
then,
learned a lot from our mistakes, and we wouldn't have learned all that shit from all the if it weren't for all the decisions and mistakes that we made.
true, yeah. But I
So no one
think
would
though
really
that,
change anything.
but I think
I
though
changed a
that,
lot of my teenage years, though.
mm, I think that if I at least knew this, it would make it would have made the decisions a bit more calculated and a
Yeah.
bit more, yeah, bit more or bit less destructive. But when you
Mm.
don't know, like, man, I'm just being guided by my, my psyche, and that's it.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
it's about competition, it's about competing, it's about getting everyone that you can get. It's about, being the top of everything that you can be without really understanding why. And I think if you understand why, it makes it a bit more structured, and that there's a purpose in that, you know.
Mm.
And again, also with females, it's like, well, if you know this happens, and you know that men are like this and this and that and this and that, then you can kind of make better decisions. And that's it. Again, when I say better, I'm not saying a pathway that doesn't have any destruction. You
Mm.
know, I think it's again making a decision with a pathway where you kind of know where you're leading to. You know where the journey is gonna go.
Mm. Yeah, that's very important. But the decision making process is kind of like it's kind of like trying out, let's say, like new food or whatever for the first time that you're completely unaware of, right? And you've tried things that are similar to it. You've tried it maybe like ages ago or a long time ago, but it didn't. You hadn't gone through what you'd gone through after that already. You know, you haven't staged or elevated that much in life to get to a point where how like this could hurt you or affect you more because of whatever, right? So for example, let's say like the first time being drunk or whatever, for example, that you don't, that's a lot of automatically getting fucked up because you're intoxicated. That's a lot of it, right? But that's just the very, very first time. And nothing will teach you about the effects of being drunk for the first time like just that experience. So you have to go through that decision. You have to go through that process. But when it comes to like an abusive relationship or anything, you don't, since you're not completely aware of what's going on, you don't really see that it's abuse. You don't really recognize how bad it is because you've never been
Yeah.
in that situation before. So once you're out of it, or once you're done getting drunk for the first time, you've established and felt all of the effects of it, and you know for a fact that you don't want to go through that again. And that's what the decision making process is like. Once you've realized just how bad it affects your life, you never want to go through it again. Sometimes there are some problems or decisions we make that we could make again, some mistakes that we could make again every once in a while, just because we haven't really grasped how bad they affected us the first time. So we think, oh, it wasn't that bad. I could probably do it again. It's not the worst, right? And then we go into it, we go through it 10 times worse than the last time, and we really, really understand why it was such a shitty decision.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's a great way to end off. Yeah, man. Yeah, I had to think a lot there. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Cool, man. Hopefully we'll get through to a few few minds, and kind of hear what a guy kind of thinks and what a girl thinks, and can kind of try to make it
Mm.
better for themselves. Yeah, well done, man. Thanks for that.
Sure.
All right,
I
cheers.
enjoyed it.
Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye. Good night.